So justice is done. Liberty's cooked in the microwave. Media, you'd think they'd be there to save us. They're not. They are actually part of the problem, if not the problem themselves. As I've always said, I will always respect, honor, and fight for their First Amendment right, the media, but that also includes the right to be stupid, which they unfortunately take us up upon all the time. What do I mean by that? Well, they've abandoned us on truth and justice, and they won't call out the facts. But what's even worse about that is when we call the media out and we catch them in lies, which is, I mean, it's just been I can't even, if I did a listicle here of all of the media lies, the show would just never end today. But we caught them. They're caught. Now with the Flynn case and all that's come out and the Russia hoax, we've caught them in the biggest hoax in American history, promoting the collusion hoax. They're busted. They're done. You would think they would, head in hand, in tears, come to the American people, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, and all these liberal hacks out there, and beg for forgiveness so we can trust them again. But they won't. They have not even apologized for getting the biggest story of the decade, maybe multiple decades, the collusion hoax, wrong. What do I mean by that? Even straight news people, real news people like Brit Hume at Fox, he plays it straight. Brit Hume has been a well-respected journalist for 50 years. Was on Martha McCallum last night. I want to play this for you. He was trending on Twitter because of this. It's an important statement. This is an actual newsman saying he cannot believe this, that this rush, they're still going with this collusion hoax. It is the biggest act of journalistic malfeasance in his 50 years. Listen to this clip. It's damning. This is not an opinion guy. This is a news guy.
As for the journalism involved in the pursuit of that story, the collusion narrative that we lived with for so very long before it was blown up in the Mueller report, it was the worst journalistic fiasco of my now more than 50-some years in journalism. It was a disaster. And you look at what the editor of the New York Times, Dean Baquet, said about it. He said he had set up his whole newsroom, his whole journalistic operation was to cover that story. And it ended up, going nowhere. It was a terrible journalistic misjudgment, and it was rooted in their view, in my opinion, it was rooted in their view of Donald Trump, that when this charge arose, they thought so little of him, that he was such a terrible person, that it had to be true. And the Washington Post and the New York Times pursued it relentlessly. Their coverage did not reflect any real doubt that it might not turn out to be true at any time. And in the end, it all blew up. You would think they'd learn. They don't seem to learn, though, these journalists who were involved in that. They got the whole story about the Covington kids wrong, and it goes on. It's still going on. And I think the coverage of the coronavirus epidemic has reflected this. There's a desire that, to see this thing as that this shutdown should continue endlessly, and anything that points in that direction they love, and anything that doesn't, they don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't encourage you in strong enough terms with every fiber of my soul and being to please ignore these media lunatics, these liberal media lunatics. They are not on the side of truth. They are nothing more than liars. Somebody said to me, as I used to say, that they tell Aesop's fables, and someone emailed me, and you're right. They said, what, Aesop was, those were good, positive, don't even associate them with it. You know what, you're right. I will never say that again. Those Aesop's fables were good, positive stories. The media is never on the side of positivity or truth. You are absolutely correct. That was great. I always appreciate your feedback. I thought about that and said, they're right. I read Aesop's fables growing up. These are Poesop's fables. Poesop? I don't know him either. It's some idiot who wrote stupid fables about bad guys. That's what the media does. Hume can't believe it. They were on the wrong side of the biggest hoax in American history, and they're still on the wrong side, is promoting these extended lockdowns with no data or science to back it up whatsoever. Andrew Cuomo, he's a hero. Andrew Cuomo got people killed by sending infected people into nursing homes. Ron DeSantis in Florida, he's a Republican. He's awful. He's the worst. He opened up the beaches. It's going to be the zombie apocalypse. None of that's happened. None of it. And you're relying on these media people for news. You understand they're lying. They're just making it up. Now, not only are they making it up, these are awful people. Listen, I did a lot of time at CNN. I was never a paid contributor, but did a significant amount of work over at CNN. I was there for probably 2 years. I know a lot of people there. And I can tell you, not every one of them is a total loser. Some of them were decent people on the wrong side of it. I mean, but some, very few, sadly. Brian Stelter is not one of them. This is the single dumbest human being in media. He is the gold medal winner of toolboxes in the media. This is not a good person. This is a guy who's not only not bright, but has a really dark soul. Stelter, incredibly, on this media bit we're doing here of the show, how they've totally failed you, is not only not apologizing for being a discredited, debunked conspiracy theorist who promoted the biggest hoax in American history, the collusion hoax. He's not apologizing. Stelter is now doubling down, incredibly, big hat tip, Washington Free Beacon for this excellent montage, and suggesting that us talking about Flynn, the abomination of justice, and the collusion hoax they pushed, totally falling apart, that us talking about it, amazingly, is a distraction to keep us away from talking about the coronavirus they're distracting us about with their lockdown. This is incredible. This is real. Listen to this montage of this clown show. George Costanza / Brian Stelter. Listen to this Washington Beacon montage. And who was really obsessed with the collusion hoax? Check this out.
So disappointing to look at what we're seeing from right-wing media these days, where there's such an obsession with the deep state and these revelations about the Russia probe. Latest on the Robert Mueller Russia investigation. Mueller investigation, the Russia investigation, Trump's Russia ties, and Robert Mueller. The real Russia story, Russia probe, the ongoing Russia probe, the Russia investigation. But Mueller and the Russia probe, Russia synergies, they wonder if Russia has compromising information on the president. What is the source for the president's claim that they have found no collusion with Russia? He misspelled collusion. Every day we're trying to keep track of the drip, drip, drip of the Russia investigation. Drip, 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 Trump and Russia. To see whether Trump was secretly working for Russia. To bring it back to Russia and Russia and Russia. 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 Russia's the Russia. 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 And Russia. Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller. Special counsel Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller. Mueller investigation. Mueller report. Russia conspiracy.
Do you believe that he's colluding with Russia?
I wish I could just say no. He's definitely not. That's crazy.
There's Costanza there. This is your media guy. We're obsessed with Russia to distract from the coronavirus after he promoted the collusion hoax and is now promoting a hoax that these lockdowns, these extended lockdowns, are somehow going to save us. He has no evidence of this at all. This guy has a very dark, so I'm very sorry to tell you that, when he's not, fetching coffee for his buddy Oliver Darcy.
You just heard The Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud. And follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 @DBongino.